This is Frank, and it is Wednesday lunch with the leaders, and we're going to be speaking with Jessica Escobar. She is our appointment setter with finance agents. And Jessica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, Jessica, good to have you with us. And
Thank you for inviting me.
yeah, we're proud to have you. We really love to have you. I know that what you're going to bring to the table today is really invaluable. It's an invaluable service. So,
Yes.
but before we get started, Jessica, could you tell me just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jessica Escobar. I am 26 years old. I've been with the company for about 6 years. This was my second job I had as a mom. So yeah, it's been working out for me great. Love working with people I work with. I interact with member offices on the daily, and Frank Alio is definitely one I interact a lot with as well. And yeah, I do appointment setting for member offices, for agents, and that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, that's quite a bit. That's a whole mouthful. So let's go ahead and kick it off then. And first of all, before I do, I like to brag to you about our new offices. Aren't they beautiful?
They are, look at that.
This is the Marina Inn at the Grand Dunes in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Unfortunately, I haven't moved in yet, but I'm planning on it. So I just want everyone to know where my mind is and where we're going. And this is certainly the vehicle that can make everybody enough money to move in and be my neighbors. All right, so today we're going to talk about live transfers with Jessica Escobar. We've already introduced Jessica, and you might get the impression that I'm kind of stuck on Myrtle Beach. I lived there for 7 years, and it was the most wonderful 7 years of my life. There's so much to do there, so many things to see, and such a beautiful beach. It is among the top 7 beaches in the world. And so that's why I would like to have our offices located there in Myrtle Beach. But um, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple of questions. And so, Jessica, what exactly is your position with finance agents?
Yes. So what I do here is I call new leads from corporate that come in on the daily, from agents or member offices who have agents under them. What I do is when I come in the morning, I will check my view as far and also Tracy Blatt, who is president of finance agents who I work with on the daily. I look at new leads. I'll check them out. I'll make sure that there's not a duplicate because that tends to happen a lot. Once I search them, I call them, and then I ask them a couple questions. If they like to answer them, they will. If not, then I just do a live transfer. That's when it comes in, or I'll schedule an appointment. However, the client decides. Oftentimes, live transfers are definitely something that's a lot more useful, just because you're talking to them right there and then, and they're available to talk, and that just kind of eliminates the process and it makes it a lot more time efficient for myself and for the agent.
All right. So, boy, you have great long answers. So, how long? I think you already said this, but how long have you been with finance agents?
6 years.
6 years. Wow. It's a good
Yes.
long time. So, you know everybody there in finance agents, and
Yes.
you've probably known of Frank for a long, long time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So, can you tell me how you decide who to call?
Yeah, well, how I decide who to call just really depends upon who I'm working with. If it's an agent that has a lead in the system, then I'll call them. Um,
Uh-oh, we got a feedback somewhere.
no, yeah, so it just really depends upon the lead source, and if it's a new lead, if it's a first attempt, so it just really depends on the source in general.
Okay. Um, it's Willie Rucker. You got to shut off. You know what? I can mute you, Willie. There you go. I muted Willie. Let's see if there's any other. No, looks like that was on Willie. Okay. All right. So what I wanted to do is I want to get out of here for a second, and I want to get up to here, and I want to see. I want to show you that our reviewed file. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So our reviewed file. Those are the files that have already been submitted, and you can see that we've had some conversation with these people, and we're trying to keep detailed notes. And if you look down here, we have 110 people have been submitted. And unfortunately, many of them, if you look at the notes, only have had one phone call, one touching. And some of them may already be approved. We found by going through this, we found some that were already approved months ago and never called back to actually pull the trigger and do the deal. So these would be some people that we could use you to call. I've got an echo again. All right, so we could use you to call these people. That would be one. The next group of people that we have are new leads. These are leads that have just come in through our agents, through our marketing, because I do a lot of marketing, and through various different sources. And we have a mere 314 of them that need to be called. What I want our pro agents to do and what I want our underwriters to do is to reach out to these people and call them and find out what their needs are and get them over the finish line. And last but by no means least, we have new agents. Once we get caught up to those about 400 or so calls, we have agents that have been with us from the beginning of time until this morning. We have about 674 of them, and I want to spread those out to all of the pro agents that we have, and I want to spread them out to the underwriters. And if we can contact these folks and do live transfers, it could be a way that we can make it work very, very quickly. So let's go back here. We'll press from current slide is what I wanted. Cancel that. I want current slide. Come on. Okay, why isn't it working? There you go. All right. So you've been with finance agents for 6 years. We've already determined that. And we now know how you've decided to call. And so let's talk a little bit about the list that I showed you just now, 3 different lists. Are those calls that you could make for us, Jessica?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So a lot of times we find that our people will call them a couple of times and not get a hold of them, or you might have made an appointment for a specific time, but when we called them, they didn't show at that time, or they were screening their calls and they didn't recognize the phone number, so they didn't answer it, or we leave a message, they don't know who we are, maybe perhaps they didn't check the message or whatever, and the flaming hot lead gets cold. So let's go ahead and move on. Tell me, what is a usual call? What would a usual call look like?
Well, if it's a new lead, I call them and I ask, if they have a lead source that they've been referred over to us, I'll mention the lead source. If they came through our website or our website or through Easy Financial Group website, I'll mention that and they'll be like, oh yeah, I went there. I'm like, okay, so you did inquire for funding. Do you have a couple minutes to speak with, for example, Frank? And they'll be like, oh sure. All right, give me 1 second, I'll connect you to them. That's usually what a transfer will look like. And then that's pretty much it. I click transfer my phone, transfer over to whomever they're gonna talk to, and they take it from there.
Okay. So once you do have the client on the phone and you've determined that they are going to um, talk to somebody, one of my underwriters, one of my pro agents, myself.
Mhm.
How does the actual transfer take place?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I say, do you have a couple of minutes to speak with one of our consultants? They'll say yes, or they'll say no, whichever, their answer is. If they say yes, I simply connect them to whomever I'm working with. And I'll say, hey, for example, Kimberly, I have Frank on the line. Can you take him? They'll be like, oh, yeah, sure. I'll click transfer, and then I'll disconnect myself, and then the client will talk to the consultant.
Okay. If we have our underwriters and our pro agents ready, how does the actual transfer work? How did the, I know you kind of said it, but how does that actually work?
Yeah, I just need to make sure that they're available. They're like Trey likes to use a word of standby. They're there at their desks. They're not, shopping around. They're not doing other stuff while we're doing this, because I'm putting my time and effort to call. So long as they're available, I know that they're ready to take the call. So we'll go into it later. I know you mentioned the calendar, but yeah, as long as I know that they're available to talk right there and then, I'm ready to just call and call and call. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, what do our underwriters need to do to work with you?
One thing would be, I guess I guess you can reference back to the calendar, and also a way that we can connect during the time that we're working together. We do use a website called Slack, is where we, text with who I'm working with. It just works a lot better than having to call or email. Slack is one, and then calendar and or email, but I know Slack is a lot more efficient for whomever I'm working with.
So you're saying Slack, Slack?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's easy to do it. It's within maybe in like a couple of 5 minutes. You can sign up, create a workspace, and you're ready to go.
Okay.
And I can help if they have questions. I can also walk them through it.
Okay. So they would sign up with Slack,
Hmm.
then they would let you know what times that they're available to take the calls. You would make the calls, and when you found the call and they said yes, they're willing to talk to
Exactly.
somebody,
Exactly.
you would just
And
transfer over.
yeah,
Okay.
and something just very important, Frank, just to mention real quick. When they give me a certain time, I like them to actually be there at that time. Sometimes they'll be, I'm running late or this. They have to be committed to the times that we have together. Um, so that's also a big factor for me. Just
Okay. So if by chance you decided that, and I decided that I'll be available from 1 to 2,
mhm.
and then something comes up and I'm not available from 1 to 2. Um, Two questions here. The first question would be, how do I inform you that something's come up and I can't make it? That'd be the first question.
Yeah, the first question, well, that, yeah, you can email me, call me at least an hour in advance. That way I know that you're not available. And that just makes it, I'll be like, okay, well, that's that. And then what's your second question?
Second question would be, if I'm not available, do you have a way to give it to an alternative person?
If they, I mean, if they're available, I mean, since I'm working with that person at that time, I'm not sure if the other person will be available. So it just really would depend. I can just call and say, hey, can you, work with me, I guess, during this time. If they say yes, then okay. Then if not, then, that creates a
Okay,
problem.
so that's kind of what I'm thinking, is to set up a maybe a primary and then a secondary. Many times I'll get a phone call, for example, and it's like, it's right down to the wire, and I've got to take it, and I've got to work with it. But if I'm stuck, I would like to have you to have a secondary person that if Frank's simply not available, just reroute it out to somebody different.
Right.
So can we do something like that? Can we work that out?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can, as we progress and do this, I'm sure we'll get more of a hang of it. Myself included, with all your underwriters, I'm sure we can work something out.
Okay. Okay. Um, how will underwriters need to make themselves, how many hours will our underwriters need to make themselves available, like
Um,
for the day?
I would say, well, here's the thing. Since my new work schedule changed, I'm now here from 9 a.m. Pacific to 1 Pacific. So I'm only here for 4 hours every day. So it just more so I would say 2 hours out of the day, because I am working also with other member offices. So I'm I'm making myself available um to speak with them. But I would say 2 hours maybe, and then those 2 hours try to get as many conversations as we can.
Okay. Well, all right. Well,
Yeah.
4 hours and you spread across 100 plus um, member offices. That don't sound
Yeah.
so good.
Well, I do it with every day I work with someone different. So every day is something different, which is why the calendar would be useful because they can see who I'm working with and I can see who's available and take times.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the calendar then, because that's probably the best way to do it to let you know if
Yeah.
somebody is available.
Yeah.
How would
Um,
edit your calendar?
well, the what I need them to do, they won't edit mine, I'll edit theirs. And they'll be able to see wh- what I have. So one is for them to share their calendar with me. And I use Google Calendar, and they kind of need to have a Google Calendar in place as well for that to work. And then I can also walk them through that process on how they can share their calendar with me. It's very easy to do. And once they do that, then they can see mine and I can see theirs, and we can make changes um, in both of those.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
Can our underwriters be doing their own work while they're waiting for transfers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they're they're not just there just to be zombies and stick there, right? I mean, yeah, they can be doing other stuff, but just so they know that in that time that we're working together, that's when we're working together. It's not like they can get up and go, you know, go get a coffee or something. They can be doing other stuff.
Yeah, well, what I meant, like they might be doing some paperwork, they might be
Yeah, totally.
gathering documents,
Yeah.
but something that they could just leave in a moment's notice and then come back to, when the client, when the warm transfer or the live
Mhm.
transfer is finished, they need to be doing whatever else they're doing
Right.
and then just come right back to it after they've taken care of doing it.
Yeah, and that's where Slack comes into place. If let's say if I send someone over and they're not done talking to the lead, or they're still talking, or they're making notes, let me know on Slack. Hey, give me like 2 minutes or give me 3 minutes or whatever, and I'll wait, and then we can take it from there afterwards.
Okay. And I don't know what is your best email that you like to use, but I've got up on the screen Jessica
So
Escobar, your phone number. Is that the correct number to reach you at?
yes, and as far as the email, they're both linked to me together. So but definitely use the first one at financeagents.com. Yeah, the other one is just a link. They're linked together.
Okay. All right. Well, we've pretty much used up our time. What I like to do usually is open it up for any kind of questions. So what I'll do is I will open it up to questions. So if you have a question, all I'd like you to do is unmute yourself, shout out your name, and then just ask your question. So if there are any questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself, shout out your name, and go ahead and ask your question. You did too good, Jessica. You did too good of a job.
I
You,
know, like in the chats, one of the chats, I think Raymond Gomez mentioned if I talk Spanish, I do.
say
Asked
that
if I
again, please. I didn't quite hear what you said.
in the chat that popped up for me, Raymond Gomez asked if I speak Spanish. I said yes.
Oh, okay. Sí, hablo español.
Yep, I
Okay,
do. And Carolyn, I'll get back to you shortly. I know she just messaged as well.
okay. I didn't know folks were chatting to you.
Yep.
I was
There you go. You see?
trying to run the presentation.
Yep.
All right. So This is a short one. Now we also have a meeting this afternoon with Trey Sublette, president of the company, and all of those who are underwriters and pro agents are welcome to be on the call with Trey. I I think we're going to be having a very interesting call today, and anyone who has the link probably should join. If I've invited you, it's probably a good idea that you do join. And I guess what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up.
Mhm.
We're going to say thank you so much, Jessica. Now, I
No problem.
really, 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 really want to impress upon everyone how important Jessica's job is for us and how valuable it can be. Now, right now, she's, I guess, had her hours cut to 4 hours a day.
Mhm.
That's not nearly enough.
Yep.
So, if we begin to use Jessica's services, I think that I could probably persuade Trey to give her more hours during the day. But if we're not using her services, then of course he's not going to go along with that.
Of course.
So we've got so many people in the pipeline. We had 109 people that have already been reviewed for lending. Those people need to be called. And sometimes they don't answer on the first call. We have 350, I think it was, new leads that have come in. Sometimes they don't answer on the first call. And we have 670 agents that need to be assigned to underwriters. So you see, we have a ton of people, and we could keep Jessica busy 8 hours a day. But we have to convince Trey that it's going to be worth it for him to pay because Trey is actually the one who pays Jessica. So I encourage you strongly to write down that phone number, mark it down so that you can
Mhm.
call her and have a small conversation with her and just tell her what hours that you'd be willing to work with her. And who knows, Trey might extend her hours.
Yep.
Okay, with that, one last round. Any questions? Unmute yourself, shout out your name, and ask your question. Nope. Well, okay. With that,
All right.
I'm going to say thank you so much, Jessica. You did a great job,
Thank you.
and I'm going to go ahead and stop the sharing and end the meeting. God bless, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you, Frank. Bye bye.
Bye now.